Good, good morning. It is. Phone's covering the time. It's 7:16 a.m. It's Monday, August something, and this is my review of Odd Girl Out by Ann Bannon. Um, Review or just like my thoughts about it, because I have a lot of them. Spoiler warning, but I think if you're the type of person who is looking for a review of Odd Girl Out, you've probably already read it, because people don't just hear about it. This is my cover. It's first edition, very sells for a lot, and I broke the spine of it, so I had to tape it back up, but it's okay. It's all good. 35 cents. Very valuable. Okay. So this was published in, I have notes pulled up, 1957, and it's kind of very important to understanding the facts because it's really unlike any LGBT content I've read before, because it's both historical but not is a thing. Like a lot of the LGBT content that I read today is very contemporary. It's very young adult, very current, or sci-fi, but still kind of current, and it's really sort of divorced from any serious homophobia, like the kind you would expect in the 50s or 60s. But I have read historical gay content, and usually it is very historical. It's about Stonewall, ball culture, just kind of that era in '69. So Odd Girl Out is unlike either of those because it's not contemporary, and it's really divorced from any of the actual LGBT movements at the time. And I don't mean the author was divorced because I don't know her personally, but I mean the actual content of the book. It's very not connected to that, and in a way it kind of feels like not a story about two lesbians, or in this case a lesbian and a bisexual woman. It really feels like a book about two straight women having a fling, and that sounds bad, but it kind of is brought to attention at the end of it that Laura, the main character, Laura and Beth, her love interest, they were never really meant to have that kind of true love. And I think that was my mistake going into the book. I thought it was a love story, and I've never read a romance novel, so I didn't really have anything to base off of it. But it's really not a love story, because in the end, they do not get together. It does actually end up being about Laura, the main character, and Beth going off to be with a man. And so, not a love story. It really does come across as more of a fling, and with the narrative framing Beth towards the end as in need of a man. And that kind of gets into some uncomfortable territory, because Laura is definitely lesbian, but Beth has a lot of relationships with men, and even though she has attraction to the woman, it's really not seen as anything valid, because throughout the book it's really repeated that her one true love is a man, and it just seems kind of biphobic. There's also the whole narrative of the love triangle. It can be biphobic in itself, or homophobic in general, because not really cheating story. I have a lot of notes here. Hold on. Oh yeah, another thing is about the time period set in. Some stories you'll read them and they're kind of divorced from history. They're set in a certain setting, but they're kind of timeless stories, and you can ignore the setting and do a revamped version. you can't really do that in this version. It's like very closely tied to the homophobia and the misogyny of the time. Like, it's set in Champlain College in a sorority. So there's like a lot of expectations set on these women to be with a man, and like to an absurd extent, where there's a huge emphasis on reputation. And yeah, it's just like, it's kind of hard for me to understand someone living in 2019 who was born in 2003. Like, it's difficult for me to like empathize with that, and so I feel like a lot of my analysis is going to be like maybe not great. I guess like walking through the actual story though, both of the characters, like Laura and Beth, they're really interesting because they're very fleshed out, but they have the conflict that they have with each other. It feels like it would make more sense in like a romance novel, but like you realize like no, it's like not a romance novel. It's just these two girls' stories. And so what happens is, while they are dating, Beth is also seeing the man that she's in love with, who's Charlie. And that's kind of the source of the main conflict. Like, there's sub-issues, I guess, but that's the main thing, is that Beth feels like she's unfaithful to Laura, which she is, and Laura feels the same way. And one of the things in the book that kind of stood out to me was Beth kind of defending her actions, saying that like it would look weird otherwise, and like her reputation was on the line, and a bunch of things that do make sense for the time period, because like, yeah, bearding was a thing, and it's normal to go out with men if you're like a sorority girl in the 1960s, and so it makes sense to have a man. But the other thing is that her like defense of seeing Charlie, it didn't really matter because it wasn't true. Like, the reason she was seeing Charlie was because she was in love with him. And that's the main thing in the book. She cannot admit to that. And that's what causes most of the conflict, is that she cannot be honest with Laura. And another thing in the book is the way like homosexuality is kind of portrayed. It's kind of runs parallel to Laura's character. And in Laura's character, there's a lot of immaturity, and like throughout the story, most of the characters frame her as being like childish, and in that way, like lesbianism is seen as kind of a childish thing. And after Beth has a bad experience with a man, specifically Charlie, after he gets Emmy kicked out, which would make sense if you read the book, but if not, it's not super important. It's just like kind of this thing where like Beth and Charlie have a disagreement, and it's kind of all you need to know. But what happens is like once Beth is like hurt, she's like back in with Laura, and she's like, yes, we can do this, we can leave, we can just not date men again, we can just be together. We can just be together. And in that, it's framed sort of a childish thing, because it's like, it's a childish response to being hurt. Like, in a way, you just like regress into that. What am I doing? And the thing is, like, maybe like 3/4 through the book, like, you start to think like, how's this going to resolve? Because like, Beth's in love with Charlie and she doesn't love Laura, but Beth and Laura are the main characters. Are they not in love? How will this resolve? And then like the book ends and it doesn't resolve. Yeah, that was just like, I finished reading it like 10 minutes ago, which is kind of why I'm still like in a mess about it. But yeah, it's hard to like understand like what the book's trying to say, because it does come across like a coming out story or like a coming of age story for Laura, but there also is like a story about Beth, who was straight all along, we're supposed to like assume, because Laura is the only girl that she's ever been with, and after that she's with Charlie, who was her one true love. So like, I mean, Laura literally says, like, she needs a man. And I mean, like, is that straight? Or is that just, like, a strange view of bisexual women? I don't know. I really don't understand. I think, like, most people in, like, the current era would call her bisexual. But again, like, this was in the 60s. They had, like, different ideas of what was what. I had more to say about the actual aspects of, like, Beth and Laura's relationship, but mostly it was, like, kind of obvious things, like Laura wasn't asking that much of Beth to, like, not cheat on her, and not even not to cheat on her, just, like, to not lie about it. And yeah, I have a lot of problems with, like, how Beth was portrayed. It feels, like, kind of messed up, but I mean, there were some moments in it that were really good, but it's kind of all painted under the guise, like, they were never really together, and, like, Beth was never really in love with Laura. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's definitely, like, unlike any other book I read before, though, so I would recommend it regardless. But yeah, it's gonna subvert a lot of expectations. That's all I can say.